This is my strong back right here. 3/4 inch plywood in a routed out channel, and then I glued it in with Gorilla Glue and set it up with a square. Make sure it's square. The floor here is been scraped where the two boards are, and checked it with a level to make sure it's level, which it is. So this will be the width. I've lag bolted it to the floor. You can see right here. There are 4 bolts in each one of these. This is my steamer box, made out of a piece of shiplap. I'm going to put it on a cover. I made it so I can do the stringers. And I've got a jerry can, and I've got it on a little propane stove, and I'm going to be putting the cover on very shortly here on the stringers. As you can see, it's been glued together with Gorilla Glue. It's got a little bit of a leak. I don't know if it's going to work, but we're going to certainly give it a try. I've got a hose, so we're turning the water back down, the hot water. Hopefully it'll get quite hot and steamy, so that should work. And then over here I've got the jig, the bending jig. I've got 2 for the top and 2 for the bottom, for the stringers on the bottom. I put these pegs in. They're nails that I cut in half and then sharpened the blunt end, and I put them at the rib locations or major bend locations. So hopefully when they're dried out, we'll have stringers that are preformed. Now the steam box has its cover on. You can see what's been screwed on. It's dovetailed in, and it's I got a few sheetrock screws in it right here, 1 at each end and a couple in the middle. And now we're, like I say, waiting for the old can to heat up. Starting to get a little warm. Water is. Hopefully it'll start to circulate. Soon find out. So we may have to put in a little bit more water in before the end of the day's over with, but hopefully not. So there it is, and we hope it works. And again, my strong back, you see I've screwed the 3 panels together. It's a little bit expensive to go buy 3/4 plywood, and I used up some scrap. But it's the correct distance apart for the width of the boat, and it will be built in here. And then I will probably have to put cross pieces across the top and to hold the top in as well, but it should be pretty rugged for the most part. This cute craft is being built from the plans of the 8-foot Nice baby. Quite a detailed build article in Rudder magazine in 1927. Gives pretty detailed plans. The biggie on this thing is this right here, is the bottom configuration. It's got a somewhat of a tunnel hull, and it's got a very unusual bottom. And apparently this same bottom was used on the Cute Craft. The Cute Craft went through quite a few changes itself. Here's the front of the brochure. It's a little bit different than that. I think there were quite a few iterations, but it's a very fast boat from that era. And here's a picture of one of the race drivers of the era, who was a very talented young lady who won a lot of races, Helen Henschel. And as I say, this Cute Craft went through quite a few changes over the years from the Nye baby. You can see one right here. The bow is quite a square-looking boat, and the bow is very abrupt. And on the later ones, the bow is very, very non-abrupt, but they still got that tunnel hull. The hot water steam box was a partial success. I worked it for about 4 or 5 hours, cooked the water on my stove, and kept it running. It worked. I was able to do the bottom stringers, but the top stringers weren't quite so successful. I was unable to make the last forms because I was afraid they were starting to crack. I've put the strakes or chines or whatever they're called on the bottoms of the two sides, and I did not make two left sides. I made a right and a left, which is surprising. I really thought about that a lot. That's one side. Here's the table where I glued them on. I'm now ready to put on the top piece. I had to figure out what I wanted to do in the bow here. I'm going to run the top piece past the bottom piece and then hopefully glue that joint. And then we'll be putting a curved nose piece and joining that in as well. It's going to be a lot of cutting, but I think it'll be pretty strong in the bow. That's what I'm looking for. Here's a saw set up to cut it, the band saw, cutting it on the curve. As you can see, here's the piece I'm using, and you can see the lines on it. Not great, but it's a curve. 1 inch deflection, about what we figured. Here's the top strake being clamped on the side. Nose piece before I cut it on the saw. All the pieces ready for assembly in the jig, the sides, the bottom, and the transom. Here the uprights are glued into the sides and being held flat by 5 batteries. Assembly of the sides, nose piece, and transom in the jig. Dry fit of the ribs. Gluing in the ribs with the top clamps to hold everything square. Clamping in the first layer of bottom. It was very thin, the material, and I needed to beef it up. First plank going in, going over the first bottom that was put on. Second plank clamped and screwed. Bottom finished. Sanding. Bottom sanded and coated with epoxy. Flipped and ready to start doing the deck. extra gunnels, deck supports in and glued. The bottom in side braces. Installing the very thin deck veneer. Installing a veneer on the sides and the transom. Boards in, linseed oiled interior. Side primed and painted. Boat finished.